What's
Hey,
up?
how you doing?
I'm excited to be here.
I know it. It's a good thing, isn't it?
Make sure my volume is up. Rebecca's always puts her picture up.
I don't put my picture up on
Hers,
anything.
hers is a lot more pleasant than Jeff Hamilton's. When his pops up, it's like one of them mean clowns. Scares me every time. I tease him about that. Hey there.
I'm here. I've just been homesick, so I don't have much of a voice.
Oh,
Hey, Rebecca.
Hello.
what you got? You got the crew?
I got the crud, the head and all that stuff.
Dr. Stedman and I are old enough. When we were kids, they called it the crew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put Vicks vapor rub on your chest.
Yep.
Make you swallow a big finger full of it.
Oh,
My
never
mother.
to swallow it. We used to sit in the bathroom with the shower on high with steam. Yep.
You
Rebecca
remember?
Rebecca doesn't remember this, Dale.
Back
You
in.
and I probably had. Mama made me take castor oil.
Well, I was gonna say, but see now, my mother. They used to go door to door and sell Raleigh products. You remember those?
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like Amway, but it was Raleigh products. And in the western part of the state, it was Raleigh instead of Amway. And they would sell like instant puddings and pie stuff. But they had a mustard salve, and they said that you could put it on, and it was better than Vicks vapor rub. And so my mama put that stuff on me. Didn't know that you had to cut it with lard or something. It peeled all the hide off of me. That mustard compress did. Lord, it went down to the bone.
You remember when when we were younger and they were real bad, that people would get what they call boils and stuff like that. Mama would take pure old fatback meat, strips of it, and she would put it over and wrap it with a compressor around it, and
Yeah.
that fatback meat would draw it to a head.
Oh, yeah. They pull it out, that grease.
You have to remember that I'm from the north, so we didn't do
Yeah.
like the castor oil or.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
Sarah probably knows what we're talking about. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Sarah, how are you?
That's just her picture, right?
No, I think she froze. There she is.
There she is.
Hey, Sarah.
Hi.
How
Sorry.
are you?
I'm good. How about you all?
We were talking about old Southern remedies with the castor oil and
Mustard
and
compress.
Fatback on bowls to draw it to a head.
Well, let's not go there.
So you need to. So Rebecca needs to get her some Vicks vapor rub. That's what you need.
Yeah.
I have some of that. I have that. I've been doing Robitussin, Sudafed. Starbucks makes this wonderful drink called a medicine ball. It's not like on their main menu, but it's like a tea and with lemon and honey, and it opens you up. But I worked most of the day today. We had the North Carolina High School Athletic Association meeting in Charlotte. So when that was over with, I just came home. And so
that'd make me want to come home anyway. I think Q's running things now, though, isn't she? Q Tucker.
She is. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to what's been going on outside of out of Stanley County. There's been a little bit of an issue that has hit Fox News. A couple weeks ago, the cheerleaders with some students posed with a Trump 2020 sign, and the teacher took the picture and posted it out on social media. And so North Carolina High School Athletic Association has put the cheerleaders on probation, and now people are saying that's unfair because that's their rights. My question is, where were all the adults that knew that this was going on? From what I understand, like the coach, the athletic director, the principal, everybody knew that that was going on. That's the issue to me. I mean, the kids have their rights, but all the adults that are involved.
Yeah. Where were the grown-ups in the room? Well, see, now you're beating my drum for 603 on law and policy on the case studies.
Yes.
Where where was the leadership that was supposed to know that you can't do that?
Well,
you don't have to agree with it. I mean, it's not about your politics.
Right.
See, the hardest trouble I'm having now with students in 603 in law and policy is they think that if you don't agree with something, you don't have to enforce it, or you can ignore that rule or policy if you don't agree with it.
Well, I'm assuming the district has a policy about neutrality when it comes to
And you don't do
employees?
anything on social media without it going through public information. We tell them
Correct.
that all the time. You can't speak to the
Right.
media. You can't post anything on media that's not been vetted by your public information office.
Right,
Period.
right.
And
So, I mean,
they don't agree with that, and they think if they don't agree, we don't have to follow that rule.
I've got the picture and I can send you like the news article, but now because the North Carolina High School Athletic Association has stepped in and put them on probation for the claim of unsportsmanlike because it was not all inclusive. Now people are saying that the North Carolina High School Athletic Association doesn't have anything to do with it. They don't need to step in.
Sure they do.
And, you know, I will say what was in the North Stanley, whatever their paper is,
Oh, I know.
Hugh sounded very good about, you know, when you as a agent of the school or representative of the school, you know, when you do that,
Paid
you are
staff.
alienating. Yep. So
You don't have the rights of duly elected officials.
correct.
You have to try
Yeah.
to explain that to folks. You're not a duly elected official. And so my newest article that went into my 603 shell this week is the clerk in Kentucky that refused to sell the marriage license to the gay couple.
Yeah.
The state Supreme Court has ruled that she can be sued civilly.
Right.
So all the groups that have been supporting her now, I don't know what they're going to do now because they're talking about her assets now. And all
Right.
those people that were standing up and cheering her bravery, they can't be found anywhere. She's going to lose her house. She's
Yeah.
going to lose everything she owns.
Yeah.
But those people all the politicians, they're not there now. I try to explain that to students. I had one in, was it the spring in the EDCI doctoral cohort to add on from Haywood County. We had the case study where you banned the 2 gay kids from the prom. She thought that was absolutely the right thing to do. And wrote that was just my opinion, that you couldn't do that, but you didn't have to follow the law if you didn't want to. And I thought, Lord have mercy.
Court of public opinion will eat them up. But they didn't mention anything in the meeting today about any of that. And I didn't think it needed to be mentioned about any of that. But
you know, the rule of thumb on all media is it's got to go through your public information office. You can't, you know, when I do the interviewing with them, that's one of the trick questions that they have in that principal in-basket activity. You know, a reporter gets in touch with a new principal and strokes his ego. And we want to do a puff piece on you and maybe talk to a few students. No, you can't do that. But we have a group now that thinks that, you know, that rules don't apply to them, I guess. Yes, sir, or ma'am.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Could you, this is Phyllis, and I've called in on my phone. I don't have it to mute I don't know how to mute me on the phone. I'm afraid I'm so that you don't hear my car and stuff.
I'll try that right now. Let's see.
Okay.
I think I got you. But no, I have did the first case study this time on the grading issue where the teacher manipulated the grade for a class assignment to count more than half of the yearly grade so she could fail a student. Oh, she was mad. She didn't know any of this stuff. Did you do any research? Did you do any? No, we just talked. It was our opinion. This is a law case. You didn't do any research. You didn't read any of the stuff I gave you. So now we have this notion of folks that if it's their opinion, that's just as valid as research or law or policy. There don't have to be any data or science or any of that. Just as long as it's my opinion, it's true. I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. You're going to lose your house. You know.
And your job.
You know, there's no school district in North or South Carolina that would go to court after a teacher failed a kid for the year, which is an exclusion. Exclude a kid for the year. Even if you give them alternative for summer school, it's still a zero tolerance exclusion, which is illegal. Law says that. Said even if you give them redress, it doesn't matter. You still exclude them for a year over plagiarizing a class assignment. I'm just amazed at how many of our folks think, well, we thought that, you know, it seemed a little excessive, but we got to support teachers always. Well, that's not the law. Well, that don't matter. I'm having the hardest time that I've ever had teaching school law, getting students to understand But all these politicians are just grandstanding. A lot of them don't even believe this stuff themselves. They're just whipping up their base. I have one of my wife's relatives worked for Tucker Carlson for a good while, and will tell you that they just laugh that stuff's just all, they just make that stuff up. He's actually a really good person in real life and fairly reasonable, and has done a lot of charitable things. One of his staffers, he put two of the kids through college. I mean, they lost their father tragically. I mean, he's a really nice fella, but it's all theater for them. But we have people who believe that stuff is real, and think that I don't have to follow the law or the policy. If I believe it, that makes it so. And so that's what you run into. And that's what we're fighting right now, to get them to understand that you're paid staff. Your job is to follow law and policy, not to make or comment on law and policy. And you're not to speak to the media or do anything, social media or any kind of media, that's not been vetted by the school district's public information office. Where were the adults in the room here? They obviously weren't in the room. I mean,
Well, I emailed you the picture, so you can.
All right, I'll see that. But that the
Use it
local
as you
paper
like.
doesn't agree with that is immaterial. The local paper's not going to be when you go to court and lose your house. So it's amazing to me. Thank you all for joining me tonight. I see that time is here. I hope everybody's visits have gone well. We had an extraordinary number of students who dropped out of the program after we'd already had them on the spreadsheet, because they were late registering and getting their financial aid notices. So that's why we lost such a large group, is they didn't know until after they'd been registered about their financial aid. Normally that melt happens in July and early August, and unfortunately it happened in late August and early September this year, because, as you know, they didn't get most of these students registered. They were still registering first day and second day of classes. We made a class at the end of the first day of classes. We made a class, but we lost a lot of those late ones because they didn't know they weren't going to get VA benefits. One of them said run out because he'd done a bachelor's and master's. I actually visited him, and he'd already done a bachelor and master's degree online, and I visited him on Friday, and he dropped out on Monday because when he got home on Friday, he got a notification that he'd exhausted all of his VA benefits. So we had some of that. A lot of didn't get as much financial aid as they thought. So I apologize, but the graduate school is working on a plan for the spring to try to get these students registered quicker. I don't know that the plan's going to help. It's a personnel issue. It's not a plan issue. It's real simple. I can tell you it's a personnel issue. They've only got 1.5 employees, and one of them gets to work from home. So I'm not understanding that either. But I'm not in charge of that shop, thank goodness. They've got more problems than we've got. Don't have but 1.5 people. So, but I apologize for that. So I've got all my visits. I know most of you. Danny was finishing his up today. Some of you got delayed by storm. I know Mark got delayed because he was going into South Carolina. So I hope you get those. The feedback from those has been great. We've had a couple of schools that are interested in some PD. We need to do one of those this year. So if you got somebody with a pressing professional development need, remember to remind them that we'd be glad to partner and do something collaboratively with them. We got a couple of bites, one in Aiken and one in Robeson County. So hopefully between the two of them, we'll get one of those. We need to try to do one of those a year. That's in our CAPE plan for accreditation, that which our service to our collaborative partners. I've been doing that. I did a couple of things in Cleveland. Jeff and I have been doing that. But I'd like to branch out from Cleveland County this year if at all possible. I did their principal of the year, designed and ran them a process. Jeff's done, he and I have done we do EVOS and a couple of other things, but we'd like to branch outside of Cleveland County where Gardner Webb, the main campus, is. We'd like to go somewhere else in the state this year if at all possible, since we've done the last 3 years in a row in Cleveland County. So yeah, it may involve some of you if that's your area of expertise, but generally, one of the full-time people will go and take care of that, but we may have you in on it. But we would like to move outside of Cleveland County this year. I had a couple of things that I wanted to cover with you tonight. I'm concerned about our competency folios and task stream. I think I've shown you this one before. This is one that's really good. This is from Anera, who finished a couple semesters ago. We don't seem to be having as much problem with our add-on licensure people as we are our 5-semester people. So I have them in class, all of them this semester. I have all of our add-ons in 603, and I have told them that we're going to work with them more specifically on their evidences. And our 2 coaches, Dr. Barnes and Dr. Sumner, Karen and Lisa, they're going to work with them to try to improve their competency folios this semester. But I'd like for all of us to understand that as coaches, we want them requesting comments, and the only thing that I really need for you to do in task stream is to go in and check those competency folios and see how they're doing. So if we look at what the good example here, she wrote a short narrative introducing those, and even, labeled them which ones were open-ended, which one from the app cell, and then she highlighted her digital learning. She did that because you can submit this along with your transcript and get if you're a teacher, you can get your digital teaching and learning credits, renewal credits through this portfolio. And so that's why she did a little extra narrative here, because she submitted this and got credit for it on her license renewal. And then there are her 3 actual artifacts that go with that. And she did that on each of these. She has her 3 artifacts. They're different media, and she highlighted which one were digital learning. And that's how she did. She actually had 5 on that one. She did a really good job. It was very clear. This is really impressive for an employer. But you can also get with this along with your transcript, will get you their digital teaching and learning credits from their renewal program in their districts. So this is what we expect it to look at like. Now, the group that just finished this summer, the 5-semester people, this is a representation of what they did. They had a little narrative and had 1. A little narrative and had 1, or a picture of 1. 1. So my problem is, I'll stop that share. The problem is that entire group, that's representative. They at best had 1. I passed all those. I shouldn't have. I don't want to get in a situation where I have to pass dozens of those again that are that thin and that weak. So we're working on those. I want us to be working on those specifically, that, they only have to do half each semester till the last semester when they do a whole round. So we ought to be getting better than that, but we've got to follow up with them. And that's the coach's responsibility. But I've got the 2 coaches with my group this time taking that responsibility. We're going to catch them up. The group that I've got right now in the 3rd semester doesn't even have 1 complete round as a group. And they should have 1 complete round after the first. So they've got some random ones, but nobody in that group. So our goal is by the end of this semester to have at least 2 rounds done. We're going to catch them up on last and try to get a little bit ahead, because I'm going to have the coaches working on that and I'll do a little extra and work on the evidence artifact work on the OMA. Since we're just doing 1 evidence with the add-ons, we're just doing the OMA. So I don't mind doing that. It'd be a burden if we were doing 2 evidences, but I'm going to do the coaching on the evidences, and they're going to work most specifically on on that. And so I'd like for all of you as coaches to take get students to go in and request comments from you and review those portfolios now, and start getting some of those artifacts in there. DPI has adopted CAPE standards, and this is what CAPE requires. But DPI is going to start checking these things along with, when we send these portfolios in, they're going to start checking these for completeness as well. They're going to expect to see 3 rounds of artifacts in that competency folio. And so we're going to have to do a little better job than one, like most of them this summer. They were just one. That was the group that started in the spring of 17 and finished in the spring of 18 and finished in the summer of 19, the 5 semester people. Some of them weren't as good as the one I showed you. Some of them just had some narrative, didn't even have artifacts. And that group was very weak on their competency folio. So we just got to do a better job. So we're going to do that. The other thing I want to talk about tonight is the CAP. If I can get it to share my screen here. There is no template for the CAP, and that's intentional. We start out with a complete template for the app cell, a little bit less for the AppTel. The OMA, we just give them the outline with no notes in it. The skip, we don't give them any template. We give them an example. When we get them to the CAP, it's hands off. Here it is, go do it. That's intentional for them to learn how to outline and read directions and put things together. Now, if they go to their teacher working condition survey or their advanced ed in South Carolina and pull the 5 areas, find the lowest 1 or 2 in each of those 5 required areas. Once they've got that, they're pretty good. And then make sure that they develop some recommendations, meet with their team, and then in task 2, they go ask people, why these things? Qualitative means they've got to go and ask people. If they can't do another, I don't want to see another survey. They survey their needs assessment in task 1. They resurvey instead of the whole thing, just those key items from those 5 areas, somewhere between 5 and 10 key items. Is this really low, or you just match principal when you filled it out that day? Once they do that, when they get to task 2, they have to take some recommendations out. They talk to people. Why is this low? What could we do to fix it? What do you think about these solutions? And I've told you, the classic example is on time. I don't have enough planning time. When you go out and talk to people, you find out putting more planning time in the schedule, which would seem like the logical solution, won't work at all, because it's not that they don't have enough planning time in the schedule. It's they never get to take it because they're always covering classes for their colleagues. And so the solution is not to add more planning time to the schedule. The solution is to hire substitutes, so that and pay the substitute. Schools and districts don't like to hire substitutes because they get to keep that money if it's not spent. They charge the teachers, but if other teachers cover their classes, they get to keep that money, and it doesn't have any strings attached. And so you get districts that get greedy. I worked for one time. Before I worked in Charlotte, I worked in a couple of other districts. One of them wouldn't hire a substitute on a bet, on a dare. And that's what they use for what they call central office staff development. Every time they wanted to go somewhere, they'd fly out to conferences. They always flew out to Miami or Vegas. They never went to Minneapolis. I can't figure that part out. But that's how that was their riding money. And they would not hire substitutes and took advantage of teachers. That was part of the reason why that superintendent got fired. The teachers, finally complained long and loud enough and found other financial improprieties, but that was just part of his deal. And he took state crime bill money and things like that and wrote on it as well. But that was part and parcel of the problem there. So that's just an example of what we're talking about when they go out and talk. And then that's in 2, qualitative, talk to people. And then in 3, they just go do they pull all their information from their school, and then they make their action plan or their cultural advocacy plan, which is the same action plan we use all the way through. Specific activity, timeline, persons responsible, resources, fiscal and human, formative assessment of the adults, are they implementing with fidelity, summative assessment, goal and indicator of success. They put together that plan, what we're going to do to address these 5 areas what activities are we going to do to address these 5 areas, and specifically those items, to get our advanced ed and our teacher working condition survey scores up and improve the culture and climate of our school. It's by far the simplest one. It's easy to do. It's straightforward. There doesn't need to be a template. There doesn't need to be an example. They should be able to follow directions at this point in their career. If they've not, we've done a terrible job with them. You know, if they can't follow the directions on this one and get that done. But it's pretty simple. The key is you got to start with those 5 areas and pull the lowest items. There's like a dozen items in each of those areas. Now, Rachel and I talked this morning. For whatever reason, North Carolina put facilities and resources together, so it's 6 and 6. The first 6 are facility, the second 6 are resource. Pull one of each from those. But the rest of them are their own separate area. Teacher leadership is what's referred to as empowerment. Leadership is on TWC is called school leadership. They have these same areas on advanced ed survey in South Carolina. But I've got to see them follow that same 5 all the way through each of the 4 tasks. Biggest problem I see is they'll do that in task 1, then I never see anything about those 5 areas ever again. And that's what the whole action plan's about. How we're going to address those 5 areas. We carry those 5 through each of the 4 tasks of the CAP. In the first task, we determine our lowest items in each of those 5 areas. In the second, we go out and ask people why they're low, what we can do to fix them, talk to them about some recommendations that we've made. In 3, we do a cultural competence audit to look and see what might work in our school. In 4, we write our plan with specific activities to address those 5 areas. Now, if they want to add managing student conduct, and a lot of the PBIS schools do, that's fine. You can add whatever. There's 12 areas on the TWC. You can add any of the other 7 that you want. But you can't leave those 5 out, and those 5 can't stop after the first task. Those 5 go all the way through. And if we go back to that grading rubric, it says that. See? Reflects parameters identified in tasks 1 through 3 and uses a graphic organizational tool. It can't be any plainer than that. Let me go back and share that so you can see it. Right here. It says in task 4, the organizational creation. In addition to the organizational charts reflects collaboration in its creation. In addition, the chart reflects parameters identified in tasks 1 through 3. 4 has got to be the culmination of tasks 1, 2, and 3. Those 5 areas have to show up in each of the 4 tasks. It says so right here, and even to be proficient, it has to. You can see it anywhere. It says tasks 1 through 3 across the board, at whatever level it is. If it's not there, it can't pass. If 1 through 3 is not there, if we don't see that they've carried all 5 through all 4 of the tasks, it will not pass when we get to the end, nor should it pass. The whole idea is, can you start with this data and track it all the way through to a solution on your own without us giving you a template, without giving you an example? Can you take this data that we told you to go and collect? It's just right there. I mean, it's low-hanging fruit. Can you take and track that all the way through, what you would do to try to fix that? Can you do that? You stay focused and move all the way through without somebody handing you a template and say, here, do it like this. So this is kind of their graduation piece for me. If they can do this, then we've done our job. They've got it. If they can't do this, then we fell down somewhere along the way. So that's how you teach the CAP. It's pretty simple. It's right off the rubric. It doesn't really need, this one doesn't need notes. Doesn't need a template. Just follow the manual. That's pretty much it. So task stream, competency folio, competency folio, competency folio. We've got to work on that competency folio. It's got to be better than the group we got this summer. Whew. I hope nobody goes back and looks at them. We're gonna be in trouble. They were rough. Well, I just showed you. You saw. Not my opinion. Bad. We got to do better. And so that's what I want the coaches working on this semester in task stream. Other than that, you don't have any other responsibilities. I'll take care of the other stuff. Our graders doing a great job. They keep up. I'm having problems right now. I'm going to have to go in manually and look at task stream tonight and see what's come in. I'm getting an error message when I try to go in and grade. Seth's trying to get it fixed. We've had task stream's been up and down. He's got all their buttons hooked to the new students. I'm not sure he's got all of the students. We had to move some coaches around because of loads. I'm not sure he's got all the legacies with the right coach yet. He said he's going to have it done by tomorrow. I followed up with him today. Hopefully he gets that done. And when we get them in there, we need for you to start telling your students, look, you need to request comments so I can go in and look at your folio and see what we need to work on.
I reviewed 601 about 6 yesterday, and it let me I was able to do what I needed to do.
Yeah, he said he got the new ones in and that they were working. It's the legacies that we're having trouble for some reason. I don't know. We never change templates so that we but because if you change templates in a program, this is what you get. We don't ever change. We have to wait to the next group in order to change any templates or anything inside of a cohort. And as far as I know, and as far as Seth knows, we haven't done that. But for some reason, it's acting like we went in and changed something. And it gives us, well, I'll show you what it does. When I go in and try to grade. Now, last week I was able to go in individually. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Steve, you're right. But that's because of financial aid. That is exactly right. Let me close that. Let me close the arrows. Let me pull this up here. So when I go in now and I hit my evaluator button, evaluation required to pull up whatever needs, you can see this is what I'm getting still. Because it's pulling from, there's no new students in there. It's only pulling from legacy students, and something's gone wrong. Now, what I can do, and what I have been doing is, last week it was letting me go in as evaluation manager, and I could go to, let me see, who we got. Fall 17 add-on, they're gone. Fall 17's gone. Fall 18, they're still with us. Fall, spring, summer, fall, they're in 604. This is a 604 group. It's letting me go in manually. Move that out of the way. It's letting me go in manually and look if there's anything. They're in 604, so they should be right here at this. Let's see. None of them have put anything in yet. But it's letting me go in and look and see if there's anything that needs grading. So I'm having to do that for each of the DRFs. And so as of the weekend, there wasn't anything in there, but we're having a little problem. As soon as he gets the bugs worked out, I'll let you know, and you should be able to have your legacy students, those in 3, 4, or 5, go in and request comments so you can start looking at their competency folios. It's working well. We've already got the new ones in 601. We've already got them establishing their folios, and we're working with them. They're already putting some artifacts in. We've got them. I did task stream with them last Thursday night, and they're rolling already. So we're happy with that, but it's the legacies we're having this little problem with. So spring 19 add-on. Let's see what they look like today. Spring 19 add-on. So it's still letting me go in today, thank goodness. Way. And then the only other group that we have would be the spring 19 regular. Let's see if they've got anything in. Spring 19 regulars. Let me get that out of the way. I can see what I'm doing here. No, see, I haven't told them, I've got all of them. I haven't told them to do their dispositions yet, since it's not been working well, but I'll probably tell them this week, start doing their dispositions. We're going to cover task stream portfolios Wednesday night in class. We're going to talk about the competency folios, and so I'll tell them Wednesday night, since I have access, I can go in and do it from here, start putting their dispositions in. But so my point is, if they request comments, I think you're going to be, when he gets that fixed tomorrow or Wednesday, I think you're going to be able to go in and check those comments. I think that part's working. The grading part is the part that's giving us trouble right now. And I've figured out a way around that. I can go in manually and do that. So we're okay on that right now as well, till we can get that fixed. He's working with TaskStream to try to get that fixed. But as far as I know, like Danny said, the comments part is working fine. And so you need to have them start requesting comments so you can check those folios. Anything else anybody's got? I've gone 3 minutes over time. Of course, we started 6 minutes late. We were talking. Is there anything anybody has that we need to cover this week? Anything? But Steve's right. Steve had a lot to drop out again. It's financial aid and VA benefits. We normally have all those vetted before we ever even enroll them, but we didn't this time. And we knew that, and I kept on the graduate school about it, and I've already passed that word back up the line that, you know, this has to change. So they've developed a new process and published it that they're going to try to fix this so that we won't have this happen again.
I won't take it personally then.
Pardon?
I won't take it personally then.
No, that's why I said one that I visited on Friday, week before last, this past Monday, dropped after and it was one of them that wanted to meet at, we met at 7:30. I had to drive an hour and meet at 7:30. So I was there at 7 o'clock because I'm normally 15 minutes. So I had to leave at 6 o'clock and drive an hour to get there, and then met with him and the principal and all that. She's one of our recent doctoral grads. We were both so excited that she was going to have her first intern. Then he finds out as soon as he gets home on Friday, he didn't get any money. So it's kind of, you know, kind of lets the air out of your balloon when you have one of those days that you thought was going so well, and you know we were really excited about. And then, you know, he should have never been in the program. He should have known that during the application process. They're supposed to find out then, not after we register them, about, you know, when they get the bill and there's no financial aid and they get a bill for $5,000. That's not supposed to happen. That's not a good business model. Especially you put people on the road and to visit these folks. Not a good business model, but they claim they've got she sent me a new process chart that they've got where they're going to fix this. But, if you run it with the same people, I'm expecting the same result. I believe that's called the double loop theory from Dr. Argers, or what's commonly known as the theory of insanity. You do the same thing over and over again, you get the same result. Or what we used to call Lamb's theory of stupidity in Charlotte Mecklenburg. That's when you hire more people to do the same thing over and over again and get the same result. That's Lamb's triple loop theory. Dr. Argers was my advisor in my postdoctoral program, and he's quite famous. He lived to be nearly 100. But he's the actual author of the double loop learning theory, theory of insanity. And so, and so if we do the same, if we have the same people, I don't know that we're going to get a different outcome, but we'll see. Hope springs eternal. I get up every morning. That's the reason I get up every morning and run to the mirror and see if my hair grew back. It's not possible. It's not probable, but it's possible. So it's possible that they'll do better. But I think it's time for a new ox myself. That's the most story. All right. What else we got? Anything else for the good of the group today? I appreciate what you do. Got a lot of good positive feedback, especially from visits, classes. Everything seems to be going really well. Other than my law classes driving me crazy with their opinions. Everything's good. All right. Think we need to meet next week? We got anything on the burner that's pressing for next week? Or can we, we've met 2 weeks in a row. We better take a week off. Let y'all get some work done. All right. I'll see you again in 2 weeks then. Everybody have a good week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.